Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I am so excited to be here with you. This is Carey Peters. I am one of the co-founders of Holistic MBA, and I am here with Reed Davis, who is the founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. And for those of you who aren't familiar with me or with Reed, let me just take a quick second and tell you how we got here today with you. I started out as a health coach, as did my business partner, Stacy Morgenstern, and we built Holistic MBA to be an educational company for primarily health and wellness coaches, so we can help them create a wonderful business doing what they love to do, and really master the coaching skills that you need to help people make change. And we've had such a wonderful experience. We've been able to help thousands of people over the last 4 years. But there's one thing that we don't teach, and that is clinical education, any kind of like health and wellness education. People who come to Holistic MBA and work with us generally have some kind of education under their belt, some kind of certification, some kind of license, some kind of something, and they come to us almost at a graduate level. And what we've noticed over the past 4 years and working with over, 6,000 people is that especially for people who are health and wellness coaches, they're really looking for more and deeper clinical education. They're looking for information that can help them really understand and feel confident that when a client comes to them, they can really help solve their health problem. I think that a lot of times health and wellness coaches really suffer from a deep fear that what they know is not enough to affect change. And so when I met Reed and I found out about functional diagnostic nutrition, I was like, ooh, this is really interesting because he teaches something that I don't see taught in a lot of health coaching education programs. And I've been through one and researched a lot. So let me tell you a little bit about functional diagnostic nutrition and about Reed, and then we're going to get started in the call. And I really can't wait to get into the meat of this. I think you guys are really, really going to be thrilled that you came here and that you're going to feel that this time that you spent here with us live or that you spent listening to the recording was time very well spent. So Reed is a certified nutritional therapist. He's the founder of, like I said, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. And they have a certification course that is really special. And Reed is known as one of the most successful and experienced clinicians in the world today. He has provided functional lab assessments to over 11,000 clients. That's a lot of people. And those tests have measured things like hormone levels, adrenal function, digestive problems, immune system, and detoxification issues, as well as testing for infections, infestations, food sensitivities, and all kinds of health-related problems. And I know when I was health coaching full-time and clients would come to me with issues like these, I would get very nervous because I'd go, God, I know there's something more I need to do for you, but I don't know how to do it. So that's another reason why I'm so excited to bring Reed and his expertise to you. So Reed, just a little bit more about his background. He served as the health director and case manager at a place called the Better Health and Wellness Center in, is it called Poway? Poway, California, for over 15 years, and now he teaches a course in functional medicine with over 1,500 trainees in 50 countries. And he's also a clinical advisor at a lab called BioHealth Laboratory, where he helps doctors interpret lab test results and develop natural protocols to restore function instead of course, just treating the symptoms, which I know if you're on this webinar, that's what you're interested in. You're interested in restoring function and not treating systems. And Reed lives in Southern California, one of the most beautiful places in the world, and teaches the Functional Diagnostic Nutrition certification courses. And he's really helping his graduates build a robust practices. So they're really out there helping people and getting clients great results. So I really was excited to bring him to our list, and we're very, very picky about who we share with our community because particularly as health and wellness coaches, we know you just have a certain set of needs. Like you don't need to hear every expert in the world. You need to hear from people who have something that is very relevant to your career and your ability to change people's lives and make great money doing it. And I'm really excited about what Reed has to teach, because not only does he teach how to bring lab testing into your practice, there's a bunch of other really cool things. And I'm just going to stop talking and welcome you, Reed, and say thank you for being here. And I hand over the baton.
Thank you so much. Oh, Carey. Well, thank you so much. It's really exciting to be here. Smiling from ear to ear because I'm honored, actually, to be presented by HMBA, and you and Stacy do such amazing work. I just hope I can sort of keep up with it.
I think you'll do just fine.
All right, well, let's get on with it, because I know our listeners are excited and they want to learn how to be a better health detective and grow their health practices. And the way you grow your practice is to be a better health detective. So it's mostly just about that. And you'll see how by being a better health detective, it will automatically grow your practice. And I'll give you some additional tips. So I hope everyone can see the slides and hear me clearly. I tend to get excited and move rather quickly. Carey, please jump in at any moment and slow me down or ask a question, because you know the listeners and you know what is going to be on their minds. And so let's just go ahead. What I want to do first is, this is a bit of a disclaimer. We do not take a medical approach. Now that probably won't bother anyone on this call. You know, medical treatment is that thing that people go for when they have a specific disease or diagnosis, or, you know, basically what we believe is that medical treatment is just managing symptoms for the most part. And FDN instead, and all HMBA practitioners, I'm sure, work in a non-specific manner. It really isn't treating a specific disease, it's treating everything non-specifically by restoring function and returning the body to normal health and vitality. That's what people want. And medical treatment, of course, depends on drugs and surgery, and the words should never cross my lips again. What we focus on is the behavior modifications and natural therapies, and they're included in our Dress for Health Success. Now, I'll tell you more about Dress for Health Success, because that's diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. And that is...
wait. Okay, so wait a minute. Hold on. I just want to stop you there. So DRESS is an acronym, and it sounds like a signature system of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. Do you mind repeating what it stands for again?
Yeah, we're going to get into it, but it's diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. So there was a book back in the 70s, I think I saw. It was Dress for Success, and God forbid anyone should get a hold of it and dress like they did back in the 70s. But I don't know, it sounded good. And when I was trying to come up with our protocols, I put them together, and it was years and years and years of working with different protocols, different people. That pretty much covers everything that an HMPA would want to be doing in their practice. It's everything that isn't diet, rest, exercise, and supplements falls under stress reduction. Basically, we don't medicate, we educate, right? And hopefully we get some transformation. Now, again, HMBA and all the practitioners who are FDNs now, and you said 1,500. I think we're closer to about 1,800 people now. And so we're right on par with you and what you're doing, Carey. And what we do, you, me, and the listeners all do, is we are offering choices. Most of us are personal trainers, or we're holistic health coaches, or we're nutritionists, or something along those lines. We also have a lot of chiropractors and acupuncturists and those kind of people. But we are offering, what we're doing is going out there and offering people a self-care model. We try to teach people how to take care of yourself and transform themselves from unhealthy to healthy, and then maintain that. You know, I've studied anti-aging for 15 years now, and it's about maintaining good health way off into the future. And then, you know, eventually we're all going to die, but hopefully we get to be real, real old, and we're healthy and happy up to that point. So we teach self-care, and it's an opt-in. No one's made to come and see us. So no one says, oh, I have to go see my nutritionist. They say, I can't wait to go see my nutritionist. But on the other hand, if you don't do this, you will be forced in later. And this is something, again, you and me and all the listeners can tell our clients. And you can borrow this, you guys. Look, Mrs. Smith, you can opt in now to my self-care model, or you will be forced in later to a disease care model. And that's what healthcare is today. It's really just disease care. And you see the pictures, it's drugs and surgery. That's what's being offered. And people don't want that. So while we are all doing that, what I would like to ask the audience is, does your self-care model that you're doing with nutrition and personal training and diet and health coaching stuff, does it actually stop the endless cycle of trial and error that people find themselves in? I feel sorry for the public today with what they have to go through. It's really a cycle of trial and error. Try this thing, try that thing. So does your model stop that endless cycle of trial and error, or are you losing clients who move on to the next practitioner and you are just number 5 and now they're on number 8? And that's what I want to show you tonight, that you can stop the cycle and grow your practice. And it's amazing. So that's what we're going to cover. And these are the 5 main things that you need to know when you want to know how to stop the cycle of trial and error. Number 1 is you have to actually get people better. I mean, that makes sense. Now, it should be a unique system of protocols that your neighbor isn't using. The personal trainer next to you, the nutritionist next to you, is not something that everybody has, or they won't come to you. So you need to get people better. It needs to be kind of a unique system. And you need to have a lot of credibility based on the community that you're in. Like with HMBA, I know you get this because you're in a strong community. And that's what FDN is. These are like brother and sister, these things. So it is a strong community. And you have to have confidence that you have somewhere to go for assistance with your resistant cases. And that's another thing we provide in FDN that I'm going to show you. But Carey just alluded to this. She was always concerned, that, hey, what if I get someone who's really sick, Well, we're going to show you how you can do that and fill this needs gap. So the gap is in this cycle of trial and error, and this is what we're going to go over tonight. But let's start with what people want to know. I come from the wellness center, like Carey said, and every single person walking in the door, I wanted to help them. It's like I wanted to be the last person that they had to see, and every one of them pretty much had seen 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 people, and I wanted to be where the buck stopped. So, and this is the 3 things they wanted to know. I boiled it down to this in my 15 years of working as a clinician. They want to know, do you know what's really wrong with me? Can you help me? And have you helped others like me? And if you can answer yes to those 3 questions, then you're going to be successful. And if you can't, then you're going to have a problem in your business, and you may not be able to stop that cycle that we're going to go into here. So when they say, do you know what's really wrong with me? What they mean is that they're tired of the runaround. And all they do, like their Western medicine model, is treat the symptoms, treat or manage the symptoms. So I can say, yes, I really do know what's wrong with you. It's based on malfunction and interferences. That'll become more clear as we go through some more slides. And can you help me? Absolutely. We're the health detectives. We identify the healing opportunities and help you restore normal function and return to health. And then you won't have any symptoms. So yes, if you're willing to do our work, we can help you. Have I helped others like you? Absolutely. Thousands of people. Again, I started in 1999 doing this. So I have helped thousands. But now I've trained others because I was asked to do some training. And so the FDN practitioner family is growing strong, and now tens of thousands of people are being helped. And this is what we tell our new FDN practitioners is, look, you can say, look, I'm kind of new at this, but this system, this family has helped tens of thousands of people. So you can answer yes to all 3. And these are the kind of things people are coming in with. And I want to really emphasize the chronic stress-related nature of the problems. Now, Carey, again, I tend to flip from slide to slide, and anytime you want to jump in, you do it. But isn't this the truth? It's all chronic stress-related stuff. We're not dealing with Ebola victims or people who just got in a car accident and are being taken to the hospital in an ambulance. That's not us.
Right.
Yeah, we're dealing with these kind of things on the slide here, and I won't read it all. If anyone wants it, we could send you out the slides in our follow-up emails and things like that. But it's everything from allergies to the weight gain, weight loss, and everything in between there. And so it's all chronic stress related. And what people are sick and tired of is going to the physician and saying everything looks normal. Now, Carey, I will ask you here. Have you ever heard one of your clients say, well, I went to my doctor and he said my blood work looks normal, and I'm wondering, is it all in my head?
Yeah, definitely. Well, not only did clients say that to me, but my own doctor said that to me, like as a patient.
Yeah. Well, the truth.
Saying,
Yeah.
oh, it's all in your head. And I was like, I can't believe it. There has to be some other answer. This is not all in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are kind of jokes here. You know, if your blood work looks normal, is it all in your head? No. Are headaches a sign of aspirin deficiency? No. There's a cause for headaches. Is fatigue a sign of caffeine or stimulant shortage? No. Sleeplessness, is that because you don't have enough Ambien in your medicine cabinet? No. And all these other things. So the truth is that symptoms are not the problem. They're the result of the problem, which is dysfunction in your body. Now, let's give doctors credit where it's due, though, and say that they do save lives. Every single day, a doctor's saving a life somewhere. They meet needs that I can't fulfill. I can't run a CT scan if someone's got big tumors growing off their side of their head or their stomach or something. So they meet important needs, but they don't meet all the needs. And that's where the gap is. So let's look at this. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you see doctor visits. People go there because they have a health concern, something about the way they feel or the way they look they don't like. And so the doctor says, hey, you know, your blood looks normal, but here's some drugs, you know, for the symptoms. And if that doesn't work after a while, you know, we could just cut the parts out or something. And so people don't want that. They come to us maybe, and we give them, oh, here's a new diet, here's a new exercise program. Some of us work with modalities. There's a lot of massage therapists doing great work and other techniques, and colon hydrotherapy. There's some neat modalities out there. But it's really trial and error. It's try it and see if it works. And it doesn't, so they go to the next person. And they get a different diet, exercise modalities. That doesn't work, they go to the next person. So again, this is not something that I dreamed up overnight. This is what I experienced in the clinic. You know, year after year after year, day after day, month after month, year after year. And so what's wrong is, and what I learned to do is fill the needs gap to stop the cycle. So here's a person, and I'm the sixth person they've seen, and they may not have a lot of help. And what I realized was that no one was doing the investigation into the underlying causes and conditions. So we need to stop chasing the symptoms and work on causes. Fill that needs gap. Then they won't need to go through a bunch of more trial and error. So what we need, what the world needs, and what every clinic, every hospital, every community needs health detectives who can identify hidden causes and conditions and then teach the client. You know, the client will learn. They will pay attention when you give them something to really pay attention to. So the client learns to build health and adopts a self-care model. So I would ask you if you're filling the needs gap. And let me give you an example. This is so perfect, and this is absolutely 100% true. This lady came in the office. Now, I was working with a chiropractor, and I walked this lady back, and I had done it a lot. You know, I'm walking her back to put her in the chiropractic treatment room to get some pressure point therapy and in her adjustments. She's seeing the chiropractor. And I noticed she was down, and her real name was Susan. And she was really I could just, well, hey, Susan, what's going on? You're not yourself today. And she goes, you know, Reed, I'm just depressed. Well, why are you depressed? Well, because I'm overweight. And I had noticed she was overweight. And I said, well, you know, have you tried something or what, you know, what's the deal? Why are you overweight? And she goes, well, it's this medication I'm on. And I said, well, what's the medication for? Why are you taking it? She goes, I've been on medication for 2 years because I get the hives. And, you know, so if I don't take this medication, I get the hives. But taking it makes me overweight. Now I'm depressed, and now my doctor wants me to give me antidepressants. So now I'm really frustrated. I don't know what to do. And I said, now this blew her mind, Carey. I said, well, did anyone ever check to see why you get the hives? And her neck swung around. She looked up at me, and she goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, you get the hives, so you take medication, and it's making you overweight, and now you're depressed, and the doc wants you to take more medication. Did you ever try to... So you see what I'm looking at here? You know, and so we had to run some labs on her, but once we got some test results back, 9 days later, she was off her medication and working. The thing that she told me was she had not worked out in 2 years because working out caused her to get the hives, you know, a little perspiration, even on the medication. And she'd also not taken a hot shower in 2 years because even on the medication, that gave her the hives. So it turned out that she had some sensitivities to something she was eating every day. And so within 9 days, she was off her medication, exercising, and taking hot showers.
Aww.
You know, so I mean, that is a story that warmed my heart so much. It still does to this day. Telling it, you know, I get emotional because, you know, I've seen the value in what we do, and we got her out of that trial and error, like different medication and different things, and you know, this frustration and stuff like that. Now, I'll tell you one more quickie. This was another one in the early days. Both these cases are at least a dozen years old, and this goes back to my roots of, you know, a mom. Now, the mom was in for chiropractic and massage and nutrition and things. And she goes, you know, I really feel better. Everything's been going really good. And I just wonder if you could do anything for my son, Michael. Well, what's his problem? Inattentive, poor grades, no friends because he's disruptive. And she had tried a lot of different diets and exercises. And she refused to put him on meds, in my opinion, thank goodness. And she was in this, like, I call it the nowhere to go cycle, like just, again, that cycle of trial and error and nothing left to do except for either, you know, take him out of school or put him on the meds, which is what they were pushing for. So we ran a couple labs on the young man, got him off of some things that he was sensitive to, and he had some chemical sensitivities and things we taught her about, you know, around what's around your house and the kind of personal care products and things like that. And guess what? The principal of the school called their office and wanted to know what we were giving Michael to make him behave that way. I said, I'm not giving him anything except for, you know, we're teaching his mom what not to do and that sort of a thing.
Wow.
So yeah, we've had some success stories like that. Obviously, hundreds and hundreds of them, thousands now, and that's what is possible when you know which steps to take with people. So my background is that kind of stuff. I was the health director and case manager at the Better Health and Wellness Center in Poway. That's really San Diego. It's just a suburb of San Diego. And I decided I was going to stop this trial. You know, I didn't want people, you know, I didn't want to be, they've seen 6, I'm number 7, and maybe they'll get help by number 10, 11, and 12 or any of that stuff. So I started running labs on people. I was a nutritionist, nutritional therapist. But I was not getting good results with that. I really was just feeling like a vitamin salesman because everything was based on, you know, diet, exercise, and vitamins. And I just felt like I was selling vitamins. So just the way the world works and the universe works, I ran into some lab scientists, doctors, and people like that who were on the cutting edge of saliva, urine, blood, stool testing to try to look at underlying causes and conditions. Now, I did all this, by the way, just as a nutritionist. I figured out how to do this without needing a license to do it. And, yeah, so I can, that's what I do. I've run thousands of tests on men, women, and children. Some of them weren't the right tests. I mean, I wasted a lot of money. But I finally, by observing my own observations, who got better and who didn't, you know, it should be no surprise to anyone, it's the ones working closest to the underlying cause. They're the ones who actually restored their health and their symptoms disappeared. And so after a long period of time running thousands of labs on people and making a lot of mistakes and what works and what doesn't work and this and that, I developed the Functional Diagnostic Nutrition program and the Dress for Health Success program, which is what, so I'm going to teach you to use, you know, just kind of duplicate what I did. I ran thousands of labs on people, figured out what works so that you don't have to go through that trial and error.
Yay.
All right.
That sounds like it would take a long time.
You know, I see people trying it, and it's okay, but, you know, you don't have to always reinvent the wheel. So, but let me give you a little admonition here, because, you know, people will start to think that, well, Reed learned to run labs, so I'm just going to run labs. Well, a lot of people are running labs. Matter of fact, almost anyone can get their hands on lab work today, but they're not doing it right. And what they're doing the way it's not right is that they're basing it on symptoms and then they're just treating the paper. So, you know, you mentioned I was a clinical advisor at BioHealth Laboratories, and I work with many other labs, and I don't own any stock in any lab or in any supplement company. But I get asked all the time by docs on those calls, the support calls I do for the lab, hey, I got someone with this problem, that problem, what lab should I run? And I said, well, you know, you could run this lab or that lab, but, you know, since we don't know where those symptoms are coming from, we don't know what the causes are, and there's a number of labs, which one wouldn't you run out of, you know, this, and this? And so what I just question about some of these experts running labs is, are they truly ending the cycle, or are they creating a new cycle? Now watch this. This is exactly how it works, Carey, and I'm going to put you to the test, okay?
Okay.
So let's give an example of how not to run labs, and that's going to just result in treating the test results instead of the person. So if a person shows up in a doctor's office and these are their complaints on the left here: weight gain, can't maintain a healthy weight, low energy, ice cold hands or feet, dry skin, brain fog, constipation, swelling, and feeling sad and blue. What might that be?
Well, that sounds like thyroid to me.
Well, that's exactly right. Those are very typical thyroid. And so a lot of people would just say, let's run a thyroid test. So their sort of diagnosis is thyroid. So what they'll do is they'll run a thyroid test. And then they'll say, yep, they'll pat themselves on the back. Yep, I did good. I found you have low thyroid output, and that's causing all your symptoms. And so what they do is prescribe something, whether it be a natural product or a prescription, chemical product. They prescribe something to bring test results in range. So what they're really doing is treating the paper. Then they'll monitor the test results. You come in every couple of months, and they'll rewrite your prescription. They'll change the dosage a little bit. That's called titrating. So they will titrate the dosage accordingly to do what? To keep your results in range. You go back in. That's treating the paper. And the good news is that sometimes the symptoms might actually go away for a little while. But if you don't deal with the true underlying cause, then that gets worse. You get the chronic stress-related deterioration in the body. And what happens? Well, symptoms come back, sometimes with a vengeance. And then they might just try, we better up your dose, something like that if they're just treating symptoms. Or they will appear as new symptoms. And that has been seen and proven and tried and tested over and over and over again. So if someone has been seeing a physician and they have this certain constellation of symptoms, and they might get a diagnosis of thyroid and even a thyroid test, and yep, your thyroid's low, so here's your prescription, and we'll keep the test results in range, and you should feel better. And if they don't, or if a new symptom occurs, what do? Well, according to whatever that new symptom is, let's say it's muscle aches and pains, or they might run an arthritis test, or if it's, so they'll run a new test and then just treat those symptoms or that piece of paper with the same way. So what really they've done is create a new cycle of trial and error. And so we'll run this test and treat that, and run this test and treat that, and run this test and treat that. So that is not what I'm talking about when I say that, lab work is the key to being a good health detective. So let's take a step now and look at where symptoms, why they actually occur in the first place. So what's that big organ in your skull that allows you to think called, Carey?
It's called your brain.
All right, I had to test. Make sure you're listening. So the brain, I have a funny joke about that, one time when we have time. But the brain is connected to the body, and it communicates with the body through the blood and through the nerves and through chi, which is energy, basically. So blood, nerves, energy, that's how the brain communicates with the body. The body communicates with all the rest of the body. For what purpose? For function. And we are designed, now this is a fundamental core value of holistic practice, holistic MBA, FDN. This is what we know, is that you're designed pretty well. Do you think, Carey, that you have to teach any of your cells what their job is?
No, I don't think so.
No,
and if I had to, I don't know if I'd do a very good job.
Yeah, they're pre-programmed with what their job is. They're designed for 100% normal function, or 100% function, and that's what normal is. So normal's really good, isn't it? Normal would produce a body in a state of ease, or homeostasis. So if you're functioning normally in a state of ease, would you be healthy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You're functioning normally in a state of ease, you're healthy, and you know, though, that that's not how people come into our office. They're walking in with these things, symptoms.
Yeah.
And we go, well, wait, you're functioning normally at 100%, cells all firing and systems, organs all working. So why would you have symptoms? Well, we know, therefore, there must be disease, which is where the word disease comes from my understanding. So if you have disease, well, that must mean that if you have disease, that must mean that you have malfunction. You've lost the 100% function. You're no longer functioning normally. Things aren't normal. You have symptoms. Therefore, there is disease and malfunction. There's no other way for it to work. And the important thing to notice here is symptoms, while common, are not normal. Don't ever let anyone tell you you've got normal migraines or normal diarrhea. There's no such thing. So symptoms are common, but they are not normal. And man, could I tell you stories about what the clients have come in and told us about what their other practitioner said was normal. Unbelievable. Like it's normal to have hysterectomies when you're 25 or 30. Oh, that's normal. Yeah, it happens. Oh, don't worry. Jeez, man, it just frustrates me. So what people come in for is relief. Generally first, I mean, obviously relief is important. They come in with symptoms, they want relief, and pills work to some extent. Even if it's just over-the-counter stuff. I mean, there's lots of intelligent herbs and glandulars and lots of things. And there's also prescription medication, pills. But if that doesn't work, the medical would lean towards, well, then surgery. Again, funny stories I have, unbelievable stories about taking body parts out. That's all wrong. And so what we realize here from this is that symptoms are the last thing to occur in a disease state. You're already malfunctioning and already in a state of disease for sometimes even years before the symptoms actually occur. But it's at least months, and sometimes many months, and getting relief isn't a bad thing. But what we know now is that symptoms are a signal something's wrong. No symptom is normal. And they may go away or decrease with relief care, but often come back with a vengeance. So obviously what we want to do is focus on the underlying causes of disease while providing that intelligent relief care. And this is where we go. We look at what is the chronic stress, or actually distress. And it could be mental, emotional. I know you do a lot of training in this, Carey. That's fantastic with the way people perceive the world and events. That can be stressful. There's biomechanical and trauma. This is why I liked working in a chiropractic office, because they are really authorities on biomechanical stress, built up trauma or poor posture or weaknesses and that kind of a thing. But where we tend to focus in FDN is on the biochemical, physiological types of stressors. That's your environment, that's your food, that's everything going on around you that isn't one of the other two. And so we do the lab work, and we focus on identifying the healing opportunities. It's not the same as diagnosing. We focus on those healing opportunities, and we use natural therapies to restore normal function. Now, by the way, if you notice what happened there, as soon as we did that, what happened to function? It starts returning to normal. And then the body returns to a state of ease. You see things dropping off there. And health is restored back to the original model of that's what health looks like. Symptoms are gone. And complaints are often permanently resolved. Even ones that have been previously diagnosed by medical doctors, fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue and all these different types of things, even asthma, allergies and stuff, permanently resolved, but only when you know which steps to take. Now, that's no guarantee of results. I'm just telling you, very reasonable expectations for this way we work to work. Now, again, we plan on about 90 minutes. I'm going to get done in less than 90 minutes because I'm going to talk. Because I'll talk really fast.
I'm hanging on every word. I don't feel like you're going too fast at all.
Okay.
I'm completely on board here.
Well, thank you. Now, this is an old model that I've adapted to our work. You got to now the center circle. It says HPA axis dysfunction. That means, we talked about the brain being connected to the rest of the body through the blood, and there's a lot of hormones going on. The hypothalamus, pituitary in the brain talks to the adrenals. It talks to the ovaries, talks to the testes, talks to the pancreas, talks to everything in your body. And so there's a lot of this, we call it HPA axis. There's just dysfunction. And what ends up going on in your body, this is a great phrase. I wanted to trademark this, man. Just metabolic chaos. There's just chaos in the body. And symptoms can appear anywhere. And if you notice, like let's take a circle on the outside, like the lower right-hand side, it says endocrine function. Well, certainly, if there's metabolic chaos, if you're eating wrong and you don't exercise and you don't get a good night's sleep and you eat like crap, like we were saying, all these different things, you're going to have metabolic chaos. The environment alone creates metabolic chaos in the body. All this pressure and chronic stress. So you could have endocrine disruption, including thyroid or ovaries or testes or the pancreas. Those are really important organs, part of the endocrine system. So we mentioned that one lady with the thyroid dysfunction, and you could take some thyroid medicine and maybe feel better for a while. But if the cause is somewhere else, any one of these other circles contributing to metabolic chaos, and just the symptom appears here in one person and over there in another person. So
this is fascinating.
It really is, because what you want to notice is that the arrows between the outer circle and the inner circle are double pointed. So let's go back up to the top left, carb metabolism. Now that's how you metabolize or break down and use and burn as fuel and things, both in the brain and the rest, every cell in your body, carbs. Now, and then outside of that, glucose homeostasis, which means blood sugar levels. So this works in very interesting ways. Any kind of pressure or chronic stress, whether it be from endocrine or detox or carb metabolism, can go and affect any one of these other areas. So someone with thyroid dysfunction, it could actually be, if you trace it back upstream far enough, that they don't eat right, they don't have good carb metabolism, and that their blood sugar levels are going up and down. And by the same token, if you have metabolic chaos, like in the middle, that can cause poor blood sugar. Like I've had, how many people have you had? And I'm not sure, but we've had a ton of people, and everybody should be thinking about this. How many people do you know that eat perfectly? I mean, and they're trying to get their blood sugar under control, and it's still going up and down, and they're wondering why.
What the hell is going on?
Yeah, I eat the same every breakfast, I eat the same snack, eat the same lunch, and yet my blood sugar, and sometimes my blood sugar is okay, and then the next day I have these big blood sugar crashes. Why? Because it's not just how you eat. It could be coming from any other area of your body. Again, metabolic chaos does strange things. Now, what we do in the FDN course, we teach you each one of these circles and how they affect each other, and in a logical strategy for sorting it out. So hopefully that's not too much information.
I have to say it's really making sense now why you call this becoming a health detective.
Yeah.
Because you are, sort of sussing out which one of these circles, and I'm assuming then in the training, not only do you teach people how to discover that, but then I'm guessing that there are protocols for all of these things.
Well,
how to solve them or fix them or whatever.
What you will start to see here, I hope, is that it's hopeless to just look at thyroid. It's hopeless to just test your blood sugar. Oh, you just need a glucometer and just check your blood sugar and just eat according and just try to control it that way, because it won't work for some. They'll go back to the trial and error cycle. So what you really need is a system that has to be a process that's step by step, and that's what we've created. So again, chasing.
Well, let me just jump in and say what's fascinating about that, Reed, is that it's really easy. Like if you're into holistic health, you go to a naturopath or an integrative doctor, and you think that you are, like I'm thinking of my own personal experience, where I think like, oh my gosh, I'm going to someone who practices in a holistic manner, but they really did just test my thyroid and then give me medication for thyroid. Like none of these other things happened. Or were looked at.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It's fascinating. Like this, what you're showing us here, it really is a holistic model. It's a whole different kind of holistic model in my mind, more complete.
Yeah, thank you. I've been working on it for a while. And last thing, just to kind of drive that home, you look at the top right and look at the symptoms on the outside of the circle: memory and learning, brain fog and cloudy thinking, quality of sleep and mood. Now you hear that all the time as in primary complaints of people walking in your door. Now they might come in for a little weight loss and they want to get in better shape, but that's just what got them in the door. So whatever gets them in the door is great to your gym, to your nutrition practice, to your holistic health coaching business. Whatever gets them in the door, if it's memory and learning, come on in. We just got to get them to realize that memory and learning could be that. Look at the bottom left-hand side of the course. It could be that they're not detoxifying. But who would put that together? It could be that it's the carb metabolism. Or you look at the bottom middle, it could be the fat and protein metabolism. See, so just treating memory and learning with, you need some ginkgo biloba and you need to exercise more. It just doesn't work enough for everybody. That's what keeps them locked in the cycle of trial and error. So I love this slide. This is a tough looking slide, but I'm really pleased that we got that.
Well, yeah, I could see, like you say at the bottom, is too much information, but when you walk me through it and you walk all of us through it, I go, yeah, I get it. And what's interesting about that is that once you get it, it's hard to not get it. Like it's hard to think that anything else makes sense is what it comes down to.
Exactly. And now you see why we like to say, look, we don't diagnose and treat anything like sleep disorders. We treat everything non-specifically. And that's where the protocols come in. Now, let's just this is a bit of a summary of what we talked about, but it's also introducing the next part. So what we see from that last slide is that the symptom can be far removed from the actual causal factors. So you have the symptom on top, which is the top of the iceberg, which shows, and then you have the chronic stress-related dysfunction underneath. And so what we work to do is to uncover those hidden stressors, hidden dysfunctions, and those sorts of things. And the bullets on the right there are every one of those things, whether it be adrenal-related dysfunction, circadian rhythm problems, looking down the inflammation, immunodeficiency, sluggish liver, all that's available on the lab tests. But which one wouldn't you run? Remember that question I said? Now that should be making, geez, if I just run one test, I'm only going to treat the paper. But so which one wouldn't you run if someone had symptoms? It's very hard to, just take one child with you and not the rest of the family, It's an interesting thing. So what we got to realize, 78% of all doctor visits are for stress-related illnesses, and half of all illnesses really are caused by stress. Now, I read this back in 2001, and that's what really set me on this investigative journey. I started practicing in 98 as a nutritionist, and by 2000, 2001, I was sick of it. I just felt like a vitamin salesman. And thank goodness, actually in 2000 is when I started working with one of the labs that I still work with. And I work with a lot more labs now, but that's what got me on my path. And what I realized is that stress, chronic stressor, it's any influence, internal or external, that causes or leads to malfunction. And we went over this a little bit in the brain-body diagram. It could be mental, emotional. I have good jokes here sometime. It could be physical, biomechanical type stress. This is why I like to have people checked out by a good musculoskeletal person, like a Chek practitioner, a chiropractor, acupuncturist. I see an acupuncturist every week, actually, or almost every week. But this is where we can really investigate and be good investigators using our labs. It's the biochemical, meaning chemicals we produce ourselves, internal chemicals, and functional stuff. All of these things need to be looked at. And when you're a good health detective, you can take people through a step-by-step process of looking into all these things, and you start to straighten it out. You see, these are the sources of that metabolic chaos that you got to fix. And because if you don't, this is what happens. We call it the stress cascade. So any one of those stressors, whether they're hidden or not, any stressor, an imbalance in one area of the body, if not soon resolved, will cascade into other areas, as we saw in the circle chart, causing serious dysfunction sometimes, leading to the disease and symptoms. So I love to look at this picture on the lower left here. And if someone has a better one, I'll take it from you. But it's got the three sort of tributaries into the river. One could be looked at as the mental emotional stress, one is the physical and trauma, and the other is the chemical and biochemical and types of stressor. And then, so what we do is we know that goes downstream, cascading throughout the body, causing dysfunction, and the symptoms are at the other end. And it's why when we see symptoms, we start looking upstream, and we have a system for that. So again, I ran these thousands of labs on people, but they weren't all the right labs. Of those 11,000 men, women, and children, I didn't have success with all of them because I didn't in the early days. I would run any test. Just I was kind of doing what I now preach: don't do. Don't base it on symptoms. And one time, the medical director I work with really kind of reamed me out because I ran a test and there was nothing on it that I could see. And he goes, "What do you run this for?" And I said, "Well, I thought I'd catch something on it." And he goes, "Oh, you were on a fishing trip. You thought you'd catch something, and you wasted $250 of this lady's money." And it was the last butt kicking I wanted from him. So I started really getting serious about which labs are the ones that will really give me the critical data so that I could undo, kind of look upriver and undo that metabolic chaos. So I came up with a handful of things. This is a long period of time for me to get here. So the first step I perform with somebody, other than an interview and what's your main complaints and how long it's been going on and what have you tried so far, where's their frustration coming from and stuff. They've seen 5 people. Everyone has. And especially if they have serious conditions. So we do our intake. We do have them fill out some forms. And we have a point system for where the symptoms sort of might be coming from. And this is where they're coming from. They're coming from the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous systems. And those are basically the pillars of health. Good hormones, good immune system, and obviously digestion and things. So we do functional interpretations only. Remember, no diagnosis of specific diseases. That's what doctors do. I'm not licensed to do that. I don't even want to do that. I just want to identify the healing opportunities and the malfunctions within those systems and give people things to do to fix it. And that's where and I came up. There's that sort of cute another acronym. I like acronyms. What can I say?
I love being a good acronym.
They just make it so easy to remember. So if you're an FDN, you're talking to a client, and they go, "Well, what do you do?" You just think hidden. I work on the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, nervous systems, and it just makes it easy to remember. Because guess what? Those are the areas they're at the root of most common health complaints. You may be able to come up with a couple more, but if you can do that, you can stop that cycle of trial and error in just about all your clients.
Yeah.
And this system really has filled the needs gap for thousands of people. So I'm going to take you through a case study just as an example. Margaret, she has that classic disease. It's called hands are stuck to my face.
That's such a tough one. There's no test for that.
So, no, she's got irregular menses and headaches. That MC is main complaint. We ran a few labs, and she had all this dysfunction, adrenal dysfunction. She was in a catabolic state. That means body breaking down instead of building up. Hormone imbalances, maldigestion and malabsorption, liver dysfunction, which means her body's not detoxifying, intestinal barrier dysfunction, so her immune system's no good. Therefore, she had some GI pathology, in other words, bugs, and she had oral intolerances. Now, can you see how if you could, even just knowing that right there, wow, that would create a lot of metabolic chaos. That is a description of the metabolic chaos. So obviously she's lucky to only have irregular menses and headaches.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's like, oh my God.
Yeah, and she's 30 years old and kind of like it's affecting her work and her life and her boyfriend situation, all these kind of things. So we ran some labs, like I was saying, and this is the handful of labs that we typically run. Now, I can't teach you what these labs do. I can just tell you that adrenal stress profiling, hormone profiling is really important. We look at all these markers here. Again, these are some of those underlying causes, dysfunctions that can be repaired. This is that HPA axis I was telling you about that's at the heart of a lot of the chronic dysfunction and metabolic chaos in the body. You have the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis, and hypothalamus pituitary gonad axis, which is your ovaries or your testes. So this test gives us a snapshot of adaptive reserve. It guides some therapy, points to the next level investigation. It's a baseline to monitor changes. It's a wonderful test to have on someone. It only takes 4 saliva samples over the course of a day.
So that's the test that you start with clients?
Well, just remember what I said now. It's like which lab wouldn't you run? Obviously, that's going to give me a lot of insights. But is it enough? Right. And my question, over the years, obviously I started I've run labs that I will never run again. The ones I'm going to show you, the ones I would run on every person. If you just want to cut to the chase, if you just want to get to, here's all the metabolic chaos, here's looking upstream all the way up, this is the small handful of labs that I've dialed into. But having said that, Carey, and you'll really appreciate this, because this is what HMBA is all about. It's not the labs, it's not the testing, or it's not treating the test results. What you really have for someone is a holistic behavior program. It's how they behave in taking everything into consideration, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and the chemical and biochemical and things. That's your program. It's just guided by these. These are just the insights. These are just the points of light to identify the constellation. And so, now this is what that test looks like. It's cortisol morning, noon, afternoon, nighttime. You get a total cortisol. You have DHEA, which is, DHEA counterbalances cortisol. DHEA is anabolic. Cortisol is catabolic. So the ratio there is very important. This is obviously about double what it should be. So she's in that catabolic state. I won't go through the entire interpretation, just as we don't have a lot of time. But this lady was in, an elevated cortisol to DHEA ratio, catabolic state, low hormones, and there's some additional clues here. It gave us some therapeutic guidance. I don't like to treat symptoms, but it tells us what we can give her for support. And if this was the only test she could afford, this would be the first. And so it kind of gets her going. But you're going to immediately get sick of running one test at a time and want to have someone run like 3 to 5, depending on what kind of business model you have. But that's kind of a separate subject that I could answer later. So this leads her investigation. If she's got all that going on, what else do you need to look at? Well, this is page 2, by the way, which is sex hormones, which are completely kind of shot. She's got low estrogen, low testosterone. Her melatonin's not good. It starts to explain a lot of things. And oh, by the way, her main complaints were irregular menses, and you can see here she doesn't have any hormones. Her other main complaint was the headaches. So, and I limit people to 1 or 2 complaints when I start with them. But guess what? When we started going over this stuff and we started saying, look, your hormones are really low. Gosh, your testosterone's really low. That's bad for your sex drive and your muscle. She goes, yeah, well, I do have low energy and low libido. So that's what we call clinical correlation. We never want to treat the test results. You don't look at the paper. And let me just finish that statement. You don't look at the paper. You look at the paper and then you go back to the client and go, tell me how you're doing, or, I looked through your history and this is matching up really well. That clinical correlation is the key to being a good health detective. I just did. So I'm a clinical advisor, and I very often get doctors calling in. I only give them a few hours a week these days, but you get the doctors, and they're like, hey, I got this test result, and we're both looking at it, and they go, what's the protocol? They want me to tell them how to treat the paper. Oh, give them some DHEA and give them some pregnenolone, and give them some adrenal support. Oh, and give them some licorice root and give them some, give them a punch in the eye, whatever. So it's like that's not how we do business in the holistic MBA model, FDN model. What we just go, whose test results are these? What's her history? What is she? What's going on? So you can't treat the test results. You have to get what's called clinical correlation. And as I'm discussing these test results with this lady who came in for irregular menses, and I'm saying, these are the things we're finding here in your test results. She goes, well, I do have low energy and low libido. Those statements are the clinical correlation I need to get to know her so I can give her the proper protocols. And another test we run, a metabolic assessment, checks digestion, excessive toxicity, and detoxification problems. In other words, this is a direct measurement of liver function, how well it's filtering as much as it is a filter. And it also checks for digestion. Are you breaking down and absorbing at least your proteins on this test? So, because you're not what you eat, you're what you digest and absorb. Now, this test shows really choked up liver and some poor digestion. And guess what? When I show that to her, she goes, oh, yeah, well, I do have digestive trouble. She had some gas and some bloating. And brain fog, which is really common in people with toxic bodies. If your liver's not doing its job, then you're going to be toxic. So we can move them along. We could give them some therapy, but this is just pointing even deeper. That's why I say, which test wouldn't you run? And so there's a lot to be gleaned here that's helpful, guiding therapy, but also tells the health detective, boy, I better find out what's choking that liver up, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing we look at is intestinal permeability. Obviously, the intestines are supposed to let food in and keep bad things out. A strong intestinal barrier, for instance, is why a dog can drink dirty water and not get sick. Well, how does it do that? The same way we do. We eat plenty of bacteria and junk. I mean, things that would be bad for you to get into your bloodstream, but we can eat them, and they can be neutralized and pass through if you have a strong intestinal barrier. So there's actually a good cheap test for that. It's only $90. Requires a challenged urine collection, but it's a really neat test to see if you've got leaky gut.
Wow.
And these are the test results, which would take me a while. These are all in the course. It would take me a while to explain. This person has a very high lactose to mannitol ratio. I know that sounds like Martian. What it tells you now is they've got it's another leaky gut situation, and actually given a physical challenge. Problem is, leaky gut's actually also an immune problem, and this only tells you about the physical aspects, but still it's great information to have on a client, because it means you've got a lot of work to do. Sorry, I should just click. There we go. So intestinal barrier function, that's a picture of that's a microscopic picture of a villi with some infiltration of immune responders and telling you that they're fighting an infection. So leaky gut is a physical thing. Like, big particles can float through, but it's very much also an inflammatory and immune system thing. And you need to know what to work on. So there's a test for that too. And another one that we ran on this lady was her pathogen screen. And obviously it's really a top-notch stool cultures, meaning they're using petri dishes and seeing what kind of fuzz grows. They're using a microscope, special lighting and staining on microscope, chemical testing for antigens, including Clostridium difficile. Those are bad toxins to have, and contribute to that metabolic chaos in very, very definite ways. Bad stuff to have going on. You got to sort this stuff out if you're going to truly stop that cycle of trial and error. This lady had some blastocystis hominis. Not a fun bug to have. And, by the way, a light growth of fungus. Now, it's very important. I know I'll stop here if you want, but it's very important to know your bugs. And we teach everything that you're going to find in a typical stool sample, good and bad, because there's bugs you want there and bugs you don't want there. Friendly flora versus unwanted stuff. But it's not enough to just say, we're going to treat that bug and you're going to be fine. You're not going to be fine. It's the person it's the host that matters. We got to improve the host in every way, or they're just going to get another set of bugs.
Well, yeah, absolutely, right? That's something that I've definitely noticed myself. It's like, oh, really? Are we having this problem again? Just because other things have to be addressed.
Yeah, this came out of my frustration with someone who said they've been to 5 practitioners over the last 4 years, and that one found one bug and treated them for it. Said, here's your treatment. Like, they're going to be fine after that. And then, but a year later, they still had bad symptoms or new symptoms, and they went to another practitioner, cycle of trial and error, and they found a different bug. Here's what you really had. So here's the real treatment. And again, they don't treat the person. They're just treating the test results and trying to kill bugs. That doesn't work. It's good to kill them. Don't get me wrong. You got to try to coach those down, but you got to coach up what contributes to health, and that's the trick, and that's our Dress for Health Success program. So we also all run food sensitivity tests on people because just about everyone has them. This lady had 34 different reactivities, some of which she was actually eating on a regular basis. We get people out.
And isn't that?
Yep.
I was just going to ask, with the food sensitivities, isn't it generally high? If someone's like totally stressed, they have leaky gut, like aren't they going to have more food sensitivities than less?
And no question about it. There are some that are sort of genetic and just kind of come with with who's your parents and things like that. Others are acquired though, and when you start getting, what happens is you start getting overreactive, and of course the worst thing after that is the autoimmunity. You start getting reactive to yourself. The body starts to lose the ability to distinguish between self and non-self. Now that's worst case, and we deal with that all the time, and that's fully covered in the course. But for these purposes, I just want to go through a small handful of tests that we ran on this lady. That's step 1. Remember, we checked HIDDEN, at least most of those, depending on how many labs the person can run and what your particular demographic is, whether it's, if you work with old women or young men. I mean, it's going to be, a lot of it's going to be the same, but little variations here and there. But step 2 doesn't change. Step 2 is always, okay, we looked at your lab results, we looked at all your intake forms, we interviewed you, and we did a lot of clinical correlation. You can't give this step 2 without first clinically correlating, making sure those test results are matching up with that person. We're not going to treat the paper. We're going to give each individual person drugless protocols and behavior requirements. And again, I love the hand there with just label your fingers DRESS. I kid you not. Anything that isn't diet, rest, exercise, or the last finger supplements, it's going to be stress, chronic stress related, hidden internal stressors and dysfunctions. They can all be sort of lumped in there. That could be the environment. That could be you hate your, job or something like that. It could be any one of those types of stress that we went over. It could be that you had an accident or something. That's a kind of stress, and you need to get things checked out. So FDN helps clients build health. Drugless protocols, behavior requirements, diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplements. That program has become so successful that we had to trademark it so that only our practitioners could use it. And it, although you'll see in a slide in a minute, we can't guarantee results, but extremely reasonable expectations that their health challenges, the things that you run across, your chronic stress-related things, they're going to go away. However, and because I work with medical doctors, if they do have a true medical condition, cancer and some of these things, this provides a great holistic grounding program when they are getting that medical oversight. And guess what? Well, I'll show you in a minute, but I mean, every doctor should have a couple FDNs hanging around to actually get people better. And while they manage the symptoms, doctors save lives. Doctors can manage extreme symptoms. That can be helpful. And they're trained in how bad things can get. So they watch a thyroid a different way than we do. They want to stabilize the symptoms and make sure that thyroid doesn't turn into something worse, like thyroid cancer. And they're there for that. They can scan, they can run antibody, they can do some neat things to watch it, but they really aren't going to fill the gap, the huge gap in, well, what would it take to restore my health so I don't go that way? And so this is just a little bit. I think I'm going to skip over most of this. This is breaking down our diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation plan a little bit more. And, obviously in the course, it's dozens and dozens of hours of training, and we go over each thing very, very thoroughly. There's really good information on our protocols there. It's not a course.
And if you're a student, Reed, quick question. If you're a student, are you also able to take the lab test yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Our course is based on, I'm going to go to the next slide. Our course is based on each FDN practitioner having their own transformational experience. So it isn't just an information course. You're not going to take the course and go, oh, that was good information. Gee, I hope I remember some of it. It's like every single person, based on the old teaching method of see one, do one, teach one. Everybody sees it in the modules. I do the lectures, and I go through all the slides, and you get all the backup, and you can print out all this stuff and the guide and all these different things. Obviously, it's a good course, but you're also going to do the labs on yourself, and that's the idea. So you see one, you do the labs on yourself, and then you turn around and teach it back to your mentor, who is your guide through the course, who will give you a safe place to practice on using mock-up clients.
That's cool.
Oh, it's just the coolest thing. So see one, do one, teach one back to your mentor, and then we actually walk you through your first 2 real clients after you've done the mock-up. So it's really an amazing process, and that's what we provide to the client. We prepare you to work with the client. One is do all your intake detective work. Part of that is the clinical correlation, so you're not treating the paper, you're treating the person. 2 is the customized dress protocol. And 3, and this is where you guys don't need a lot of training. HMBA graduates and trainees should be well aware of a coaching process. And this is where you guys would shine. You wouldn't need a lot of training in this area. Our course is basically mostly step 1 and 2, putting the protocols together in step 1, but we do acknowledge that then you got to go actually work with people. And this is where your HMBA training is going to be totally invaluable and partnered with this so well. You actually get to help people adopt this model of self-care and behavior that meets their individual needs. So we do what you do. We teach this, that you make and keep appointments. You be responsible. You check their progress and conformity with your instructions. You correct them when they're goofing off. You answer their questions, of course. This is the key one, guide course correction. You see the picture of the sailboat? That's because there's no power boating to health. You can't just put it in high gear and shoot across the lake to health is over there, and I'm gonna get there as fast as I can. It doesn't work that way. There's currents in the water. The winds change. The winds might die down. I grew up sailing on the Great Lakes, so this is a great analogy for me. You have to tack and come about and get yelled at by the captain. That's how you sail towards good health. And so
I love that.
So that's kind of how that worked for me. And so that transformational process, you guys got this down pat. And
yeah, well, that is really why another reason why I think that FDN and Holistic MBA really are just good partners, because based on everything you've taught us, we just offer such complementary trainings, which makes me really happy.
That's why, there's 2 reasons why you and I think we're really cool. One is because we are really cool.
Obviously.
But the other one is that you talk the same language. It's just the same language. I just bring in the tools and some protocols around those tools. The rest of it is the behavior. It's getting people to do what they're supposed to do. And when you have labs to back you up, man, they pay attention. Or they go away and realize it's their own fault. And so that's really critical to running a good, successful business. So This is how I built a successful practice. Now, I built one of the most successful nutrition practices in the country. The people I was buying my products from and the people I was doing the labs with said, Reed, nobody's doing this much business. Who the hell are you? And I didn't know anything. I just said, I don't know. I'm just a guy working in a clinic in outside San Diego, and I love the work and I love helping people, and I'm very aggressive out in the field. I love doing lectures and screenings and stuff, and I get a lot of people coming in the door. And they're like, well, whatever you're doing, you need to teach it to others so that they can be successful. And that's why 6 years ago I started teaching. And so this is everything I've put together so that you don't have to go through that time of trial and error. Now, you might be sitting there thinking that you already help people, and what's really different about this? Well, just answer, if it meets the needs. If you're meeting everyone's needs with your diet and your exercise and other, your stress, whatever you're doing, then great. We know diet's critical, but a lot of people are already eating really well, and guess what? I have clients tell me all the time, I already eat perfectly. Well, maybe they're not quite, but they're eating really well. And guess
Pretty
what?
darn well.
Yeah, they still have a lot of serious problems. Same thing, exercise. I don't. This was something Paul Chek said to me once. He goes, there are many fit but unhealthy people. And man, did those words ring true with me, and I'm sure you too.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's so frustrating, especially if you're a health and wellness coach, is that when you're eating well and you're exercising well and you're not seeing the change in your own health, it's so, not only is it intensely frustrating for you as a health coach, but then it also sort of sparks this feeling of like, well, I'm a fraud because I'm eating well, I'm exercising, and I don't feel better. Like, what is wrong? And then that's a real problem, because when you go to, get clients and you're trying to stand behind your work, you're not really sure if you can. And that's tough. That's tough. And I love that you're offering a solution to that problem.
Well, thank you. And, this is just where I want people to think. If they're not sort of on par with us and wondering, well, hey, I'm already having pretty good success, just take a look. If you're meeting the needs of people, great. But otherwise, we have to really fill this needs gap and stop the cycle. Again, getting back to this picture. So you just ask yourself, are you filling the needs gap? And if not, then take a look at what we're saying, because we found that just sort of diet, exercise, modalities, trial and error isn't working for people. And they certainly don't want to go to their medical doctor and get drugs and surgery. So here's what Margaret, that lady we just looked at, here's what her clinical outcomes, that just means results. Now, I have to say this, no guarantees. And I tell every client up front, look, no guarantees. But don't you think there's some reasonable expectations? And that's what I sell. I don't sell guaranteed results, your migraines are going away, but very reasonable expectations that they will. And I've yet to have a person that they didn't either go away completely or just sort of turn into occasional normal headaches. That's the worst clinical outcome I've ever had with someone with migraines. No more migraines and just regular headaches, and only occasionally. So that sometimes miracles have occurred. Again, I don't guarantee it, but reasonable expectations, and that applies to any symptom you want to talk about, unless they've got one of those sort of extreme medical things, and even then we do them a world of good. But Margaret said this: I tried everything I knew of to get better, but realized now I was just medicating. She was just treating her symptoms. Doctors never seemed to be able to provide me with any logical answers. I thought I led a healthy lifestyle compared to what most people, particularly due to my dietary choices and philosophy towards exercise. She meant she was eating right, like we said, and already exercising. Now I realize that without knowledge of the effects of hidden stress on the body, I would never have been able to truly heal myself. My health problems have disappeared. My energy is back to what it was when I was a teenager. Well, heck, you're only 30, lady. It should be there for another 40 years. That's what I told her. I go, well, I'm glad to hear it, but I want to tell you, I'm 61, and I still feel that way. So you got a long ways to go. Now, I didn't go through the case, but this was something that just came up recently, within the last couple of months anyway. This was an actual trainee. He wanted to send in a testimony. He goes, and I'll just cut to the chase down at the bottom. After 3 months, his wife sent his FDN practitioner flowers. Saying, wow, thank you for giving me my husband back. Warren has continued to improve and reports feeling better than he ever even remembered. So we get these amazing clinical outcomes. Again, no guarantees, but just reasonable expectations. And that's all you have to sell. It's much better to under-promise and over-deliver, don't you think?
Well, yeah, and also I think I'm so touched by these outcomes and thinking like, God, I felt so much pressure when I was a health coach starting out. I felt like I was supposed to be a doctor, but I knew I wasn't a doctor. I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be in school for 8 years, but I knew I wanted to be able to help someone change their life. And what kind of really gets me and moves me about these, like his wife sending you flowers, is that, and what you're offering is that it's an opportunity to really help people change their life without having to be a doctor, and without having to take, 8 years of school and have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And I think it's kind of magical, especially just given the way healthcare is going, that you've been working for the past, 15, 16, how many years were you in practice?
Well, I worked at the Wellness Center for 8 solid years. Then I started my own gym for a couple years, and then I started teaching. So it's been a total of 15 years,
15 years you've been working on this thing.
Yeah.
And here healthcare goes the way that it goes, and people are starting to look for alternative methods and having to be way more proactive. And here you are providing a solution that, yes, obviously I'm a great believer in coaching and the power of coaching. And when it comes to health and wellness, having these lab tests and having this stress system is compelling. And I feel like I'm just, I always admired your work, and I feel like after this call, getting to know it more, I'm so thrilled that you're offering this program. I'm so pleased to be, sharing it with our list, because this is a transformational process that really, at the end of the day, changes someone's life. It might be the difference between, someone walking around with a colostomy bag or not, someone, getting a really serious problem versus being able to have something taken care of early on, and that's just very special.
Well, yeah, just the idea of that colostomy bag that's when it's kind of too late,
Yeah.
It's like, and I've seen them in every stage, from 8 years old and just having a little tummy ache. Just literally like a little tummy ache, and then, by the time they're 15, their skin isn't good and they have no energy and they're not doing well in school, and then when they're 24, they got chronic diarrhea, and now their joints and muscles hurt all the time and their skin's really bad now. And then by the time they're 34 and 44, and you see the point, they're on drugs, they're on medication, they're getting these partial resections of the gut and the small intestines and the colon and stuff like that. And I've seen them at 70 years old with their anuses sewed up tight. Like they just removed the colon, and they have a permanent colostomy bag, not some temporary thing. So I've seen every stage of that disease, whether it be irritable bowel or Crohn's or all these different things. I've seen it in every stage, and it's horrible, the progression of that disease when you don't work at the underlying causal levels. When you only treat symptoms, it's drugs, more drugs, harsher drugs, surgery. And so it's really just incredible. Now, I wanted to just sort of go back. We're doing well. We said 90 minutes or less. We're at about an hour and 15 minutes. So what we said was necessary if you want to be able to stop the cycle of trial and error and be a better health detective and build your business, is you need, first of all, protocols that work. And I showed you some, things that we do in FDN, the investigation and then the DRESS program, and that works. And it needs to be unique. We've trademarked some of our processes because we want to protect those graduates who have invested the time and the money to become graduates. And you also need a sense of community, and a community work within for credibility. We have Facebook groups for our trainees and graduates. We have separate ones, because it's better for trainees. We monitor that. We have a weekly newsletter. We have a weekly call-in show. We have affiliate programs. We have website listing for other practitioners. We work with other agencies who also certify people. I think you and I have a PDC exchange program. If not, we need to do that. And there are FDNs in 50 countries. So we have a heck of a community, but more important is you want that, and you want strength and support in that community like my staff does, and place to go for resistant cases, because you'll run into the odd resistant case. You might run into a lot of them, and it doesn't matter how many, we're going to be there for you. So I have an amazing staff who spend a ton of time with you. Again, you're going to see it in the lessons, you're going to do it on yourself, and you're going to turn around and teach it to these people. These are amazing people I love, who are part of my crew, and we're in Europe, and we're in Australia, and we're in the United States, all over. And these are just the leaders. They each have their own staffs and things like that. Like I said, we have about 20 people. Lots of support from an executive, administrative, and sales areas, research and development. Amazing people again. Our medical director program is just an amazing thing that gets you help on very special cases with just about any lab that we want to run there. And our advisory board is second to none. We actually have just implemented a new level of advanced testing, and there's no certification to it. It's just another level. So these are some of our people who teach in that second level. And you don't need to do that. There's no requirement to do that. But we have, amazing advisory board. And back to remind you, these are the 5 things you need to do to be a better health detective, which we have covered tonight pretty well. I hope, I pray that we showed you a way to actually get people better. You got to have something that's going to have at least reasonable expectations that it's going to work, so you can feel confident going out and selling it. And it should be unique. It shouldn't be something that your next door neighbor has. If there's 10 trainers where you work, you want to be the one that's an FDN HMBA graduate. You need that credibility based on the community. We've, over 6 years, developed an amazing community, and the support, the confidence you get being able to take your resistant cases to. And these are the same people who will get you through the course, that mentorship. Every single person that works for me is a graduate of the program. It's a grassroots thing. I mean, I started 6 years ago. You better shut me up. I'll keep talking. I started 6 years ago. It was me with an administrative assistant, and I got up before 19 people with and went over about 600 slides in 2 days. And when I look back at it now, I think, man, I couldn't have done anything worse. You want to know what? It was the best thing. Most of them said is the best thing they've ever been to. And some of those original 19 are still FDNs and still practicing to this day, and have just stayed with us all the way and are now working for me, some of them. I mean, over those first early, so I mean, I have, like, Jill and Julie have been with me for 5 years, just growing with the company and everything that comes along. So you really have all that, and then you will be able to fill the needs gap. So getting these into your practice, into your business, into your mind, into your heart and your soul, getting them in is the absolute best way to build any health business. So I didn't spend a lot of time on the things I do to sell, but I'll just tell you that all you have to do, you don't have to copy me in this regard. There's lots of people who help you sell, and I know that Carey and Stacy cover some of that. But more of the things on the right, perhaps, the website and sales funnel follow-ups, webinars, live events, social media, mobile, all this sort of stuff, relationship building, all that online. I personally was a screener. I love to get out in the public. So I went all around Southern California doing screenings, health screenings, and getting booths at different things, and doing lectures and workshops and talks, even interviews and things like that, and pretty much telling my story. So there's my way, according to kind of the pounding the pavement way, and then there's a more contemporary way. I mean, when I started out, it wasn't quite like it is today with the social media and websites and things. But here's the bottom line. It's actually at the top of your screen. Just plant your flag and tell the truth. You don't have to do anything else to really build your business. When you've got the 5 things we covered in the last slide, just keep speaking your truth, And you know what? It's going to resonate with people. And that's the sort of trick. Now, I don't know if you wanted to say something about, but I'd like to tell the listeners, Carey, if it's okay, about the course, how they could get in, and of course, and I'd like to offer a special offer to the HMBA followers. Is that okay?
Yeah. My God, I want to take it myself.
Okay. All right. So this is what we do, and it's very highly sought after. As you know, there's my friends Carey and Stacy, certainly the best looking of a lot of my supporters. And but look, some pretty well-known people: Sean Croxton, Pedram Shojai, Paul Chek, Bill Wolcott, who's the HealthExcel metabolic typing leader, and a lot more have sought us out and working with us to joint venture and things like that. And here's what doctors are saying. This is William Bailey, who is my medical director. FDN integrates perfectly with a healthy lifestyle, personal training, health coaching, chiropractic treatment, acupuncture, naturopathy, Chek, and all other health disciplines. Anything sort of natural. It provides a holistic grounding program for those with medical conditions. So I think it should say, and it provides the healthy ground, if you do have it. So this is something else he said, and he just kind of off the top of his head one day says, there should be one FDN practitioner for every 3 doctors. You know what that would mean here in San Diego? Well, we have Sharps, which probably has 2,000 doctors, and we have Scripps, which probably has 3,000 doctors. That would mean, what's that, 5,000? Well, there's one for every 3. There should be at least 2,000 FDNs. So we need people to do this and get out there, because we're needed. Because doctors
that's just San Diego.
Yeah, that's just San Diego. We need at least 1,000 FDNs just in San Diego. So and there's work for them, because doctors aren't quite there yet, but they're getting there. That they need that their patients have needs that they can't fill, and that patient is going to go get filled. And that's what we want to be, a part of that movement of hey, we want to be filling those needs, stopping that cycle of trial and error. So I have to say this, we don't take anybody into the course. You do have to qualify. You have to answer yes to these 5 questions. Do you have a strong desire to help people really get well? Do you want to start or expand your practice? Are you willing to be a model for what you're selling? Walk the talk. Again, remember, it's see and do and turn around and teach. And then recognize the need to invest in your business to grow. And yes, I'm not a whiner, because we want people who see the world as a cup that is half full, not half empty. Because that's who's going to move forward into the future with us. And so if you can answer yes to those 5 things, you're already going to be successful. And we're just here to help you achieve your goals. So you got to qualify. And in those ways. This is my special offer to HMBA people. The course right now is $39.95. I have to say this, it's subject to change because it does go up. My staff is so awesome and so amazing. They keep adding things. They keep making me, we need a new module on this, and you need to add this. So, I think it's state of the art right now, but and it's only $39.95. I've been told I'm sort of giving it away. If you only worked on yourself and your family and your kids and a couple of people around you, it'd be worth that. But the fact that you get the business model and to go out and do this in the world for that kind of money is amazing. I'm going to give the HMBA listeners a discount of $600, which brings it way down to only $33.95. And I'm going to include all that mentoring I told you about. That's a bonus. That's included. My business development coaching. And I'll even give you my stress and hormones lecture, which is how you can go out and deliver that lecture. I would love it for you to go to a library, a grocery store, the PTA meeting, or some kids center, and just give the stress and hormones lecture. So I'll give you my slides and my copy of me doing it, so you know how to do it, and I'll throw that in there. So it's only $33.95. You're going to save a lot of money, and payment plans are available, of course. So
yeah, and do you know, it's like how, well, I know we're going to give a link as to how people can find out about this, but I know that oftentimes our community is interested in the payment plan. So is that information that they get when they click on a link?
Well, I'll tell you, let me explain how that works. So right now, if you want to sign up, because I'm going to do one more thing, and I'm going to hopefully encourage you guys to go ahead and do this as soon as possible and get ready for next year. You want to go into next year swinging the bat hard. Plant your flag and be telling the truth. Now, it does take about 6 months to get through the course, but as long as you're on the way, you're going to see what you're going to be able to do for next year, and it can be your very best year in business ever. So all you have to do is go visit holisticmba.com/FDN. So you go visit holisticmba.com/FDN. You can go right now. You'll go to our website and you'll click on register now, and it doesn't make you register. It just gives you the registration page. When you click registration now, you go to a page that gives you the options. There's a 6-month plan. There's a 12-month plan. To get the discount, you need to do the 1 payment plan. And so you would register yourself as the student, and then it's going to ask you for credit card information. So you'll pick whatever you want, 1 payment, 6 payments, or 12 payments. If you pick the 1 payment plan, then when it asks you for your credit card, you can put in the code HMBA600. And that now what we're going to do, because I can't keep this open indefinitely, Carey, is we're going to expire it on Black Friday, which is, so hopefully you spend the money on yourself and your education and invest in your business and adopt all these new tools at an amazing price, and roll into next year having really done something for yourself in your practice. Obviously we got to buy presents for people because we kind of have to. But, buy yourself a present or get someone else to buy you this. We're going to hold this coupon good until Black Friday, November 28th. And so you basically have 18 days to get it together. And if you need to, now my phone's unplugged right now because I didn't want it ringing during our webinar, but that's my phone number. You can call and talk to me. And here's what I'm going to do that I just was kind of a last minute thing. The FDN Level 2, it's not a certification course. You have to have FDN 1 done. But that's some extra modules on some very advanced testing for those who really want to explore and get into it. It's an $800 course. So I'm going to just right this minute throw in an extra $800, but only for the first 10
Oh,
Now,
I like it.
now I have to say, you got to finish course 1 before you can take 2. So you won't get access to it until you graduate. But I'm going to, for the first 10 people, and I think, we had 500 people sign up for this webinar, so it's probably not going to last long. But go ahead. I'll give FDN 2 to the first 10 people. That's another $800 that you will save and not spend and get all the benefits of. So one more slide, and then I'll come back to this one, and that is my guarantee. If you take lesson 1 and you don't think it's everything I laid it out to be, and I'll give you 30 days to review that. That's plenty of time. If you don't think you'll be able to help people improve their health, if you don't think it's worth around 10 times what I'm charging for it, in terms of return on investment, you let me know and I'll give you a refund. So that makes it a no-risk offer. So you want to, I'm going back to the slide now. Go to holisticmba.com/FDN. And you can look it all over, but basically you want to hit register now, pick a payment plan, and then when you put your credit card in, use that discount coupon. And I'm pretty much done, and we did it in time. We got about 2 minutes.
We did. And I just have one more thing to add, and that is that this is just to consider, if you are considering this training, and I do strongly suggest it, which is why I wanted to host this webinar, is that, this is not, there are times where I will see people say like, oh, I don't know, am I going to be able to take this training or that training? And just a reminder that, when you are a health and wellness professional, that training is a part of your career. You are going to train and be educated for the rest of your life. So it's not a matter of going like, oh, am I going to be able to take this training or that training? It's a matter of saying, I'm going to take this training, and here's the date by which I'm going to earn this investment back, because I'm going to take what I learned and I'm going to go out and serve people. So if you're someone who is thinking like, oh, can I get away with spending this money? That's not what this is. This is an investment in your earning potential, in your skill set, and your ability to help people and make a great living doing it. This is not, when you see people who are doing well in health and wellness, Reed, we had a live event a couple weeks ago. Actually, we were in San Diego, and there was someone in the audience who said, well, they're just lucky. Mm-hmm. And I actually got angry when I heard that is not true. Yeah. It's not a matter of luck. It's a matter of consistent implementation. And what I love, Reed, about your program is that you provide a lot of support with a really great staff so that people can turn around and take what they've learned and implement. So what was the phrase you used? Was it learn it, do it, teach it?
See one, do one, teach one.
See one, do one, teach one. So this is going to be the kind of thing where it's built into your curriculum to go out and take this to clients. So if I were you, considering this investment, I would say to yourself, like, this is, yes, and I'm going to earn this back. When Reed mentions an investment, it should be worth 10 times what you invested, and it is for sure. Oh, yeah. You want to actually make that a reality for you. And if you've been through a holistic MBA trainings, then you know how to do that, and you'll learn, if you haven't been through holistic MBA training, you'll learn in FDN.
Absolutely, and that return on investment, I don't want to belabor all this too much, because I risk, my enthusiasm often comes across as, I'm trying to sell the course. I just really know that you can stop the cycle of trial and error if you have the tools and the skills, and that's what I've tried really, really hard to provide here. And I make it sort of a fair deal, easy. My staff just loves their jobs. They love working for me in FDN and being part of the community, and you'll feel that same enthusiasm coming from them. And so it's very infectious, as you can see. Carey's response, and then you'll be out there planting your flag, telling your truth, and people will want to hire you. And I'll give you my model. My model's in there, exactly how I introduce myself to people, and the services, and what's different about it, and why they should hire me, and how much. And it's only going to take you 1 or 2 clients to get your money back, and if you do it my way. So that's really all I had. And thank you so much, Carey. It's been a great pleasure. That 90 minutes went by really fast for me, and I had a lot of fun. And we want to help people in the world. We want to have fun, and we do want to get paid for it. So that's what I hope we're doing here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Reed. This was a pleasure for me. I learned a ton, and thank you everyone for your presence and your commitment to this awesome material, and thank you so much.
Thank you.